32 years have gone by living in this city.
Yeah.
How could I have been so disconnected from nature? So living in Mumbai was a strange experience. I always felt like I don't belong here.
So community over commerce, right?
Community with commerce. Let community decide how much commerce, right? This use and throw culture, which again was not there in India. You know? Circularity, reuse, recycling, this is something that I have grown up with. Bacteria or something that can
Radiation.
eat plastic. Okay? Imagine if that bacteria came in our homes.
Yeah.
There are no others, there are no enemies out there, you know? And so, you know, to inspire love for nature by creating enemies, it doesn't work. You know? Some of the people we were taking care of in our family had died also in front of my eyes. So it was not new to me. But to watch your own mother go through this journey like a warrior, when the moment actually came, I have to say that it was one of the most sacred things that I have experienced. She refused, even on the last day, she did not want any interference, you know. And her thing was that she wanted to be conscious. So she refused to take painkillers also. It is, in fact, nature's best kept secret.
Our guest on the podcast today is Manisha Sheth, an architect turned environmentalist. For the last 23 years, she has been working in the space of sustainability and environment. Manisha is the founder of eCoexist Enterprises and eCoexist Foundation, and Punaravartan, which is also an initiative under the foundation. All amazing bodies of work, which we talk about in detail in our conversation. And she's just someone that you will connect with instantly. She flows through life effortlessly. And I think it's the best definition for anyone looking to start a green business going forward. I don't think there should be a script. This conversation is going to be an enlightening one for all our listeners. So stay tuned. This is a really fun one. Manisha, thank you so much for taking your precious time and coming on this podcast. Welcome to Root Cause.
Namaste, Swapnil. It's so nice to be here.
Great. So let's begin from the start. Your journey from architect to environmentalist seems to have its foundations in your upbringing somehow. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were brought up? What was the environment? And we'll get into the Gurukool bit because that's what I'm excited about. So what was that like?
So both my parents were pretty radical people. And I have to say, like most children, I only got to appreciate them much later in life.
Yeah.
My father is from Gujarat, and he grew up in an environment where there was a lot of focus on service. So service to community, service to country. This was part of his background. He was an engineer. And my mother came to India during the partition. So she had a very tough childhood, a very tough, experience growing up. But then she grew up in refugee camps in Ulhasnagar. But then she and her elder sister both ended up going to the US as scholarship students and getting PhDs. My elder aunt was the first woman scientist from her village in Sakhar. So books have been written about them, and they kind of set the bar very high for us, right? So when we were growing up, it was very interesting because my father was very soft-hearted. So he was more like a devotee, you can say. You know, he kind of led from his heart. My mother was a skeptic. She was more of an intellectual. So she really didn't believe in God, or, she was going on another path. She, in fact, refused to go to the US to study because she did not agree with the US foreign policy at the time. So they had to convince her, Kenya, IE, And my aunt was a scientist. So she was very sharp. And we grew up because my aunt also lived with us. And they were very close friends.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bombay. I was born and brought up in Bombay. And that in a way, I discovered that a crab walks sideways only when I was 32 years old. Okay. In Sanjay Gandhi National Park. And I remember thinking, how come I've never really seen a big crab so far? Like 32 years have gone by living in this city.
Yeah.
How could I have been so disconnected from nature? So living in Mumbai was a strange experience. I always felt like I don't belong here. But what was lovely was that close to Mumbai, in a place called Ganeshpuri, there was an ashram.
Mhm.
And my father very early on decided that he needed to have a guru in his life, right?
Mhm.
So he was a seeker. So he went and he would sit with and listen to many different teachers. And then he finally found his teacher at Ganeshpuri. And I was only 2 years old then.
I
So,
see.
of course, the family was so close-knit that every time one person does something, the whole family does it.
Correct.
So when Bapuji started going there, all of us went along. And my mother, being the skeptic that she was like, let's see what
Arm's
this
length.
is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we were very, very fortunate because we grew up in the company of our gurus and they were realized beings. And later, as I grew older, so when I was 17, I had a very deep inner experience and I realized that that was actually the most precious thing in my life, to have a guru. So I asked my father and I got his permission. And then onwards, through my studies in architecture and after my studies also, I spent a total of 6 years in the Gurukool.
I see.
Yeah,
So it was
and
not continuous.
it was not continuous because I would come and go. Because I also was, I wanted to, kind of keep my freedom and, then come back again, right? But those years were just, in a way, when I look back, they're the years that I remember the most. Because in this day and age, to find a teacher is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
A true teacher.
I agree.
And she, my guru, Guru Mai Chidvilasananda, she is one of those. And so we were molded in her company and in her presence. And one of the things she spoke to us about was love for nature. And of course, the ashram is located in a very beautiful valley. And so we got those 6 years being close to nature, which was like the contrast of living in Mumbai.
Right.
And there I discovered the beauty of nature, but also I developed a sense of responsibility because she would tell us that nature is God. Like there's no point in worshipping a man-made icon or a symbol and neglecting nature. Right? How does that work? It doesn't work. So it was through her that I developed this really deep love for nature.
I see.
But also this sense that a sense of stewardship, that whatever I did with my life had to be in service of this incredible energy, right?
And this is at such an early age.
Yes, it was, right. And so then when I moved to Pune, which was in 2001, I took her blessings and decided that I would shift my field, because in architecture at the time, there were very few people doing the kind of architecture that I wanted to do, because it was all very much about aping the West and, wanting to be like New York and Singapore and all of that.
Yeah.
And my heart was just not in that. So when I came to Pune, I started looking for a teacher again. And that's when I came across the Ecological Society and Professor Gole. So again, I was very fortunate because we were amongst the first batches to study directly under Professor Gole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So just to give color to the whole Gurukool experience, what does a typical day look like? Is there a curriculum?
Yes.
What time does it start? How is that? Because I grew up in a very conventional school. We had morning prayers. We said the pledge. There were lectures. We were arranged in neat rows, not allowed to move. They were lenient times, so we used to get thrashed with scales and stuff like that. So I'm very envious of this, because now at this point in life, I kind of realized that this is how education should be. So what is a typical day in a Gurukool?
So the Gurukula system, the most important thing in the Gurukula system is the Guru.
Right.
And it is the presence and the love of the guru that actually is kind of the foundation of the education that you get there, right? So, of course, it's a very structured and a very disciplined environment. So, yes, the daily schedule was very disciplined. So, we would wake up really early in the morning. There was chanting, there was meditation. And then the big part of our day was to do seva. So seva means selfless service, and already in my family, the culture of seva was already very present. So I was very much at ease with it. And since I'm more of a karma yogi anyway, I found it difficult to meditate and difficult to calm my mind. But to do action and to act and offer your action as an offering to the guru and to the community, this is what you really learn when you're there.
I see.
So it's a molding of your personality, a molding of your attitude. And another very important thing is that it teaches you to go inside and to be comfortable with yourself and to question and to do self-inquiry, right? Which is an inner process. And this is something that other education systems do not provide.
Absolutely.
I've often thought that, everybody tells a child what to think, and how to think. But very few people allow the child moments where he's not thinking and give them the skill, now you can stop thinking and you can be, This doesn't happen in other education systems. Whereas what happens with the guru and in a traditional Gurukula, that a lot of our time in her presence was spent in silence. It's not like we were having some great debates and, there was time for that. There was time for scripture. There was time for study. But a lot of our molding often, it almost happened by osmosis because it was her presence and her energy that mattered, not so much of what she said, And it was such a tangible thing, Swapnil. Like she would look at you and you'd know what she's thinking. You were sharing with me.
It, yeah.
Yeah. So you were sharing with me about your relationship with Mrunmayee.
Yes.
And that happens whenever there is deep love.
Yes.
There's not much talking required.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
And if there is talking, then the words carry so much power
that they manifest.
Yeah. And that in a few words, the communication happens. So these are the moments that I remember. Of course, as a child, you develop resilience, you develop discipline of body, of mind. These are also very important things. But without a real guru, a real teacher who wants only the best for you, just going to a Gurukula doesn't make it happen,
Unconditional love, maybe?
And yes, and not, even the word love it's not enough. That doesn't describe it. It's almost this ability to unite, where you're sitting there and there's nothing separating you, And this is the same thing that much later in life, when I was, say, sitting in a forest or watching a bird, right? At some point, I started to document butterflies. And you have to be extremely still inside if you don't want that butterfly to just fly away. So you have to go inside and find nature inside of you. And then that butterfly is completely still in your presence, and allows you to enter her sphere, So this is what a Gurukula can teach you if you are blessed enough to find your guru. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. We moved out of the city 7 years ago, and we moved with the energy of the city. So initially it was very chaotic. Although we were in a serene environment and everything was, very beautiful, but we were not still.
Least, yeah.
And then as time went by, you kind of settle into the rhythm, and it starts with the body. It starts with the physical. So you settle into the circadian rhythm, and then slowly but surely your heart, your soul, your being sort of aligns with everything. And we have experienced this on the farm with birds, where a Malabar whistling thrush, while we are having breakfast or morning tea, comes and sits on the table, sings a song with us. and then flies away.
Mm.
I think to witness that is pure magic. I
Mhm.
think that is what life is all about,
Mhm.
right? And if education at such an early age can do that, maybe you should try. I know you're working with children now, and I know you're carrying on this work. So I think we'll circle back to this point. But surely that foundation has led to a lot of things that you're doing today
Mm.
in
Yes.
life, right? All right, let's move on. So I think you get this education, you dabble between the city and the Gurukul, and you come to Ecological Society. And back in 2006, you start eCoexist,
Mm.
right? And what fascinates me is this conversation I'm having with myself right now.
Mm.
Okay, I wanted to start an NGO or a non-profit because the work was noble. Okay, but then I decided that I need to have a for-profit company
Mhm.
where profit. So my conversation or my relationship with money and profit has been a constant struggle,
Mm.
to be honest with you.
Mm.
And I'm beginning to come to terms with it.
Mm.
I'm beginning to understand it. So I think this is fundamentally very important to understand that people, planet, and profit, all three together, can create sustainable businesses. So, what was your experience with EcoExist, and why did you go for a for-profit rather than a not-for-profit?
So after I finished the Ecological Society course, I worked for another 6 years with the Kalpavriksha Environment Action Group.
I see.
And that was another training because they were working at several levels. So we had projects in rural areas, in urban areas, at national levels, and I also traveled internationally with my mentor and saw the entire spectrum of environmental work. Right, so from going to organic farms to also seeing networks of environmental groups in the cities and handling international networks. So those 6 years, I saw how, and Kalpavriksha is a not-for-profit.
Get you, yeah. I was
Yes.
just going to say that. Can you
Yes.
explain for the listeners what is Kalpavriksha
Yeah.
and what it does?
So Kalpavriksha Environment Action Group is a not-for-profit organization that I think has completed 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. And it was Ashish Kothari was one of the founders.
Yes, correct.
And again, I had, you get so many teachers in life.
Yeah.
So he was, again, one of my teachers. Not that I agreed with him on everything, but I did learn a lot from the Kalpavriksha group. He taught me, and the group taught me about participatory decision making, wherein really everyone on the team was an equal.
Stakeholder, yeah.
And decisions were made together. And even if somebody disagreed, you had to keep talking until everybody agreed, right?
Till consensus.
Not just consensus, ki chalo maan lete hain, not like that, where everyone was able to really bring their whole heart into it and say, okay, I think you're right. I think let's do it this way, right? So consensus building is part of it, but having the openness of mind to really see the other person's perspective and be patient till there is a synergy between two opposing views. That's one of the things I learned from them. And but those 6 years in Kalpavriksha were not easy. And I left Kalpavriksha with a desire to be more part of the solution. With them, I learned what all the problems were, right? But being a designer at heart, I had already finished my studies in architecture. So I wanted to do something that was joyful, that, created income for people, that created livelihoods, right? And that was also, somewhere connected to our amazing Indian tradition and philosophy. And so I started a campaign for festivals when I was in Kalpavriksha called Safe Festivals.
Yeah.
And Holi is one of my absolute favorites. I found nobody was willing to play Holi with me because there were no safe colors available at the time. So this idea came up that why don't we make Holi colors, right? And Sunita Rao, who was in Kalpavriksha, she used to live on a farm in Karnataka, and she was working with the women in Karnataka, women farmers. So she said, oh, it's easy to make natural colors. We can make it. We'll get the women there to make it, but who's going to market it? And I had no clue about business or marketing or anything. But one of the things I learned from my parents and from my guru was when something needs to be done, you should step forward and say, yes, I can help. That's how it's always been, right? Whether you know or don't know, whether you have the money for it or the team for it, all this is subsequent. First, there has to be the willingness. So, and I loved to play Holi. So I said, acha chalo karte hain, I'll do it. So we started and in 2 years, it already reached such a level that suddenly we realized that this needs a platform. It can't happen from the NGO. And so with the blessings of the Cultivating team, I stepped out and I said, okay, let's do the next thing that needs to be done, which is to create a firm.
I see. Okay.
And I also saw that as an NGO, you're very dependent on somebody else to kind of buy into your idea and support you. And
exactly.
So I thought, okay, I don't want to do it.
The red tape and
it has its own processes, its own challenges.
Yeah,
so I thought, let's try something different. And can we earn the money that we need to do the things that need to be done, right? And that we are inspired to do. So that's why I started it as an enterprise and not as an NGO. So then over the next, from 2006 up until 2017, which is when I then started the foundation, we only had the enterprise. And so all our work happened, as the enterprise. The work, of course, there was a lot of not-for-profit work happening too. But the for-profit kept the incomes coming in.
Interesting.
Yeah. So and that allowed me to really understand the market and understand about money, handle money, right? And interestingly, eCoexist, in the first 1 or 2 years, so 2006, I started eCoexist. In 2008, I got separated from my husband.
I see.
So at that time, I was happily married to someone I loved and everything was taken care of. So then it's okay, then you can be very idealistic and you can do all of this. But when everything falls apart and suddenly there's no safety net anymore. So just as you were sharing about the farm, right? And you think, okay, I'm going to do this great thing. And someone pulls the carpet from under your feet.
Yeah.
And that's when the learning starts, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then I had very little money and my parents said, okay, we'll help you out. But we started with very little, just like 1 lakh or something. And it worked. So then from then on, I just kept doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and following my heart. And the clues come, you get clues from the universe of what to do next, right? If you're willing to be quiet enough to listen. So I kept following those clues. And here we are today, So... But at that time, there were very few social enterprises. There were very few green businesses.
New concept,
it was a completely new thing. So in a way, we also had to, those of us who had started that early, we had to set the rules of the game ourselves, So now even this People, Planet, Profit, all this came much later. The triple bottom line, all this, beautiful ways of saying it.
The words.
Yeah.
The words came later.
Whereas when we began, it was more about what feels right. What feels right. So even when, like, I want to share one learning that happened. So in the first few years, because we decided that we're not going to set up a factory anywhere.
Right.
It was not about creating an industry out of this.
Interesting. Okay.
It was about creating green livelihoods for the people who really needed help with livelihoods, while having products that were completely non-polluting, safe, and natural, right? So the livelihoods was what was kind of the main motivating factor. So I would do my best to ensure that all the people who worked with us, who made the products, who worked in the team, they were taken care of, right? But interestingly, when you're working with whom you call underprivileged people, you also get a glimpse into the way they think and they believe. And we found that often people wouldn't show up for work, And when I would ask them, कि आप क्यों नहीं आए? So I realized they would say कि मैम हमारे जहाँ हम रहते हैं वहाँ पे हफ्ते में 2 बार ही पानी आता है. तो हम पानी भरें या पैसा कमाने जाएं?
Maslow's hierarchy.
Then they would say मेरे पड़ोस के यहाँ किसी का देहांत हो गया, so हम उधर जाएं कि पैसा कमाने आएं, right? So all these priorities, when they would say this, I'd realize, no, that is more important.
Absolutely.
Right? And so then you realize that money and cash in the hand comes only much lower in their list of priorities, right? whereas I was trying to put it on top, which is what modern society has got wrong, right? So I realized, no, it's okay then. It's okay. So then you have to tell the clients, nahi hoga aapka kaam. Wait, because there's a death in the neighborhood over there, right?
Yeah.
So you then start kind of reconfiguring the whole system by which the market
This is
works.
so interesting. Absolutely. Yeah. So community over commerce, right?
Community with commerce. Let community decide how much commerce.
Yeah.
There were lots of learnings about money also, and the way, we are conditioned to believe about money, the things we are taught to believe about money, which is actually it's a resource, right? You want the money because you want something else that the money can get you.
It's an enabler.
But if that came to you directly, then you don't need the money. You don't need the money. So we started then working directly with the resource that was needed. And this, again, even when you run environmental campaigns, it's not that you need the money to run the campaign. You need the people to work with you so that the campaign happens, right?
Yeah.
You need some infrastructure,
Yeah.
And all those things can also come without the money.
Yeah.
And this is a learning, right? So even now, when we work with children, we don't want to give them the impression कि अगर पैसा है तो ही आप कर सकोगे, और अगर पैसा नहीं है तो आप नहीं कर सकोगे. So I'm very careful not to give them that impression that, if you want something to be done, you have to learn how to manifest it, of which money is just one.
Correct. It's a lubricant.
Aspect.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think there's a circularity naturally coming into your businesses. And there's a term coined for it now, which is circular economy, right? So I think where such businesses stress is in the big commercial markets, so the big financial markets, where there's a price war and a price relevance. And creating that demand requires a participation from customers as well, where they're, like you said, आप उनको बोलना पड़ता था कि आपको रुकना पड़ेगा, या इतने सस्ते में नहीं मिल सकता है, थोड़ा सा एक्सपेंसिव ये होगा क्योंकि उसमें इतना इनपुट जा रहा है. So how did you try and build awareness around that? How did you do the marketing? Because I think a lot of listeners who are about to start conscious businesses, there's a term for it now. It's conscious businesses.
Okay.
Right? So conscious businesses, conscious capital, where you're just not investing in businesses that come at the expense of the planet and the people, but they sort of bring everyone up together. So how did you get the customers?
I think the first thing I'd say to anyone wanting to start a conscious business is to be conscious and to ask yourself, why do I want to do this? Right? What am I trying to do here? Is this just because, it's something that gives me a lot of joy? Is there a problem out there that I'm trying to solve? Have clarity about the why, right? So that your intention is very, very clear.
Yeah.
And of course, as you go along, perhaps that intention might change, as your understanding deepens, hopefully your intention will change. But it's important to keep coming back to the why and say, why am I doing this? And one of the things my mother, who again was one of my greatest gurus, she would always say that there are so many factors to make anything happen, Nowadays, we kind of put an individual on a pedestal and say, isne kiya. Right?
Elon Musk or whatever.
Yeah. So, we make heroes out of people. But they never work in isolation, right? Just say, when we started, let's say, Mansi and Ketki started Oikos, or I started eCoexist, was well ahead of its time. So, uska samay abhi tak aaya nahi tha. Right? So, for something to be successful, quote unquote, there are so many factors that enable that or are, not available, so the success doesn't come. So I think it's important also to define what is your idea of success if you want to, play the long game, especially in the environmental sector, because you will be expected to be in there for a long time, right? So what is your idea of success? What are your measures of success? And so as mom used to say, there are so many different factors to making something successful. So it's not just a lot of money in the bank, right? So even as a business, it's not really the capital in terms of the finance that you were able to make, but the entire social capital that you have created because of your work, the networks that you've built, the minds that you've changed, right? The choices that you have influenced. This was my measure of success, you know? And I was well aware that it will take time, for a general acceptance for some of these ideas. So I'll give you one example. We started working on the plastic bag issue, the single-use disposable plastic bags. We started working in 2010. And initially everybody said, so at that time, single-use plastic bags were being given out for free. Right? And there was no expectation that you do paise dene padenge uske liye. So in that kind of a business mahal, how will you set up a business to produce something that is competing with that single-use plastic bag which is being given out for free?
For free. Right?
Yeah. So what will you propose in front of that, right? So at first people said, okay, let's do paper bags, newspaper bags. So we tried that. So newspaper bags take time, they're labor intensive, and they don't do anything to the mentality that says, ek baar use kiya, phek diya. Right? This use and throw culture, which again was not there in India. Circularity, reuse, recycling, this is something that I have grown up with. I've grown up with, right? Yeah. My mother used to call her the queen of recycling because we were not allowed to throw things away.
Correct.
Right? And it was embarrassing as a child that when she would say, now you wear her clothes, right? Or, your dupatta is going to become the curtain. And after the curtain tears, then we will make napkins out of it. And then after napkin tears, we'll make a pocha out of it.
Correct.
And at the time, you don't understand, right? Yeah. And then now you realize that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to pay money for bags. So the newspaper bags, I thought, okay, this is also not going to work in the long run. So because the problem is bigger, the problem is that I have to change the mentality of the people.
Yeah.
It's not just about replacing one material or replacing a product. The idea of disposability itself, kahan se aaya hai? And yes, you may have things that are disposable, but if the material is natural, and if you are not, worsening the problem where the material is coming from.
Yeah.
So disposability with non-biodegradable materials doesn't work.
Correct.
Right? So then we switched to cloth bags. When we started with cloth bags, 5 रुपए भी देना नहीं हो रहा था, मान नहीं रहे थे. 5 रुपए, 10 रुपए की bag, 10 रुपए भी नहीं देना चाह रहे थे, right? These are people who are spending, lakhs on an Audi and don't want to buy a cloth bag. That's where we started from.
Right.
And it took years and years and years. And then alongside every product that we did in the enterprise, there was always a lot of work going on in the background. So we were studying the laws around it. We were doing surveys in societies. We were trying to understand the larger
socio-economic situation
within which this product was being proposed.
Yeah.
And if people were not switching to cloth bags, then why were they not switching to cloth bags? So that we could really then identify this is where we need to work.
And what was that?
So it's mentality and it's convenience, right? And it's also what is being put on offer by advertising and by modern society, modern life, the way it has come to us from the West, and the aspirations that we are just bringing in from the West. And because one of the things we realized when we went into the paid areas and we spoke to the shopkeepers there, so they said, "आम्ही नाही देत. तुम्ही स्वतःची घेऊन या, नाहीतर आम्ही देणारच नाही तुम्हाला. You want something, right? It's not my responsibility to give you a pishvi."
Right.
But that's how it used to be.
Yeah.
So we looked at that plastic bag के पहले क्या होता था, कैसे, because society was functioning even then.
Correct. घर से लेकर निकलते थे.
So it's a mentality, and it's taking still a long time. Now, finally in 2018, there was a ban on single-use plastic bags, especially below 50 micron. And all this research and surveys, all this was done along with Ecological Society, along with my colleagues, from there, where we really try to understand what is actually the problem. So again, I would say to green businesses that, you have to understand the psychology. You have to understand also where is society at right now. Otherwise, you'll have to wait a very long time. And if you're willing to wait that long time, then diversify and have other things that can bring you in the money while you're waiting on this one to kind of ripen.
Yes. Also, another macro thing that has worked for me is identify the tailwinds. So like in your case, The tailwind was policy coming in and saying ban on single-use plastic. That's a good tailwind to ride on. So when this policy comes in, you come and say, okay, I'll sell cloth bags, right? Similarly, right now, there's a huge energy transition happening, and we are going away from fossil fuels towards biofuels, right? This, in my opinion, is an opportunity for reforestation. This is how I look at it. So anyway, the government is saying, okay, listen, no more petrol, and we have to cut down electric also. So then we go to biofuels, which means we have to go to degraded lands and we have to start restoring them. This is an opportunity. So I think green businesses need to look at good tailwinds.
Or create the tailwinds. See, when we started in 2010, there was no policy.
Correct.
The policy came in 2018. So 8 years after we had started. Okay. And then 4 years later, they lifted the ban again.
Yeah.
So if you're again completely dependent on a policy being in place, you will go up and down with the policy.
Yeah, of course.
You know, the same thing is now happening with the Ganesh idol and the situation with that. You know, so I would say, firstly, be clear about your intention. You know, review and revise your understanding. You know, and then diversify. So you have multiple sources of income. You know. Keep your overheads very, very small. So don't put yourself in positions where then you have, you know, you're under so much pressure just to keep your organization going that then you compromise somewhere else. You know, so stay simple, work with very little, and be willing to wrap up and move, you know, in a jiffy. You know, so have exit strategies also. And this businesses never think about. They feel that you started a business, it should now run from here to forever. And it should grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
And so the whole limits to growth thing also. That there was a time for us to run a holy color business. And then as the whole market changed, it was not needed anymore.
Correct.
So when I reached the time when I saw, oh, there are some beautiful products now, and they're as authentic as what I was trying to do, I'm not needed here anymore. I can do something else.
Interesting.
So you have to also detach and let it go, you know, and move to the next thing where your interest and your commitment can be better utilized.
So I doubt that the guy who made that plastic had an awareness of what it's going to create, no? He must have thought,
मैं तो इतना अच्छा कुछ कर रहा हूँ because I am trying to solve, you know, these problems. I'm only looking at this much of the problem, but I'm not getting the entire picture. Okay, you know, 100 साल के बाद. So now, like some days ago, I saw this article that now they have discovered some microbe, some fungus or bacteria or something that can
radiation
eat plastic. Okay. And I thought, okay, here's another thing. You're going to let loose this bacteria. Imagine if that bacteria came in our homes.
Yeah.
You know. And just a few days later, there was an article about if that bacteria entered your body, and you have, let's say you have a stent or you have something put in your body.
He's going to eat it.
Can you imagine? Right? And we are like looking at the world like this.
Yeah, blinders.
Yeah, because we have lost our connection to everything
Absolutely.
else. So you can't think in terms of connection. One of the greatest things that I got from Professor Gole and Ecological Society is he didn't teach us one thing like in a very deep way. He would keep telling us, you know, a little about this, a little about this, a little about this. And they say, you see how everything is connected. You see how this is connected to that, you know. So the child starts thinking in terms of connections.
Yes.
You know.
Which is what it's all about.
Yes. And that this World Wide Web should actually be this web that connects all of us in this room, right? With the desk and the lamp and the camera. That's what it should be, the World Wide Web. That's what it is actually. But we never think about it like that, you know. So can we have an education system which is not making specialists, generalists, but generalists who are good enough to kind of really understand the web and know that मैं इसको यहाँ खींचूंगा तो, you know, 2 मील दूर कहीं पे कुछ होने वाला है. He gave us a very lovely anecdote which I have never forgotten. I think it was Mahajan sir or Gole sir, one of them did this, where he said that in a particular year, the syllabus, you know, वो पहले नहीं होता था intermediate and so 10 plus 2 आ गया उसका.
Frogs, yeah.
Yeah, you know this story, right? So
well, let's do it. It's an amazing story. Tell that to us. Yeah.
So
we are rolling, I know. Yeah.
Okay, so 10 plus 2 में, so when they changed the syllabus in the education system, So उस वर्ष क्या हुआ कि एक जगह पे frog की population नहीं
rice
sorry
dropped.
the rice yields dropped.
Crop yields drop.
And why? Right. So what is the connection between the syllabus changing and this?
The 40% drop in crop yields that year. And what's the connection?
What's the connection is that then they introduced this practicals, biology practicals, for which they had to catch all the frogs and bring them to the colleges. And the whole crop yield got affected, you know. And they had no clue that this is what led to that, you know. So
let's explain it. So basically the frogs disappeared. So the pests that the frogs were feeding on multiplied and they had a feast of the rice.
Yes.
So this brings us to food webs, food chains. It's all connected.
Yes.
And I think once you go more subtler, you also realize that the non-living is also connected to the living. And so we are actually living on one single organism. And creating that consciousness is, I think, the trick.
Yeah, so how would you create that consciousness, right? So for me, my sadhana, my spiritual practice is like absolutely key. Okay? Because that if I had only few hours in the day, that's what I would do with those hours. So आपको ये जो निसर्ग का समझ है ना वो अंदर से आना चाहिए, right? Because finally, who are you? Where did you come from? You know, we are nature ourselves, right? And it's okay to, you know, do lip service to this and say, yes, we are all part of nature and not experience it within you.
Yeah.
Right? So
may I ask, what is your sadhana?
Whatever I learned from my guru, the tools, and India has amazing schools of thought, amazing traditions. It's like as many, हमारे गुरु कहते थे कि जितने लोग हैं, there are those many paths to gods as there are people, because each person's path is unique. So Swapnil will do his own thing, Vrindan will do her own thing, and Manisha will find her own path.
Absolutely.
You know? So you have to find your own path, and it's a valid path. Whether it's through permaculture, it's through a green business, it's through teaching. You know, in a way, it also leads you to understand that there are no us and them. See, I'd like to talk about what I have realized is wrong with the way the Western approach to environmental conservation is.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, and I might say a few things that may not be very palatable to many people. But there are no others. There are no enemies out there, you know. And so, you know, to inspire love for nature by creating enemies, it doesn't work, you know. The guy who is doing whatever he's doing, which you think is wrong, you know, that guy is also nature. And you are also nature. उसको वो करने की प्रेरणा कहाँ से मिल रही है?
Nature
से ही मिल रही है, right?
Correct.
So nature has black and white. You can't say I want all white. In fact, that is the root cause of the problem.
Yeah.
Right? That they say नहीं मुझे यही चाहिए पर ये नहीं चाहिए.
This is the right way. My way or the highway.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Yeah. And environmentalists also do this.
Of course.
All the time.
Of course.
Right? So then how do we, you know, find that openness of mind and balance to say, okay, what is required here now? You know? यहाँ पे मेरा धर्म क्या है? Like even the definition of dharma is not like one standard thing. That is your dharma. It's yuganukul, deshanukul, samayanukul. You know, what is my dharma in this particular context now? It may have been green business 15 years ago. Maybe that's not what is my dharma now.
Absolutely.
You know? So, I lost my point.
That's how you're defining dharma. Okay. Yeah. So you were basically talking about the Western idea of
environment conservation, right?
Yeah.
So, and here maybe this is the right time to speak about my mother and the way she died, because that really made me rethink. You know, a lot of environment conservation is around the issue, let's say, of species extinction. You know, there's also a lot of this, you know, rhetoric around the end of the world as we know it, apocalyptic kind of thinking.
Dystopian futures,
right? That this is all going down the
doom and gloom.
It's a one-way kind of journey into, you know, nothingness.
Yeah.
This is not the way the Indians understood nature. Whether you look at tribal philosophies or the Hindu philosophy or Buddhist philosophies, that in most schools of thought, the understanding of nature is very different. Circularity has been inherent in the way India functions, So what happened with my mother was that she in a way was quite a realized being herself. So she had already done a lot of healing for a lot of severely sick people in our family. So for years and years, she had been a healer. So when it came her time, she decided that nature knows what it's doing inside my body also. And I simply have to stay out of the way, And I know that at some point I will be leaving this body and I want to do it in the way that nature wants to do it for me. And I'm humble enough and surrendered enough to allow it to happen. So which meant no interference. I don't want any diagnosis. I don't want to give a label to this illness. I don't want to run around from doctor to doctor, from hospitals to hospitals. Now it's my time to die and I'm going to learn about dying, right? And this was not an easy thing for me because she's my mother, but she had spoken to us about death and dying for a very long time. So we had already been trained. Some of the people we were taking care of in our family had died also in front of my eyes. So it was not new to me. But to watch your own mother go through this journey like a warrior, when the moment actually came, I have to say that it was one of the most sacred things that I have experienced. She refused. Even on the last day, she did not want any interference. And her thing was that she wanted to be conscious. So she refused to take painkillers also because she didn't want her consciousness to be numbed in any way. She wanted to watch. She wanted to observe. Ki ho kya raha hai, na? And she wanted to learn. So this is how she chose to go. And I was so fortunate that I could witness that and observe that. After she left, of course, it took me a long time just processing and understanding ki kya hua, And I realized that death is not something that we have to be so terrified about. It is, in fact, nature's best kept secret. You imagine if death did not exist.
My God, torture.
Right? How would the cycle close, Death is nature's, best tool to recreate life all over again.
Yeah.
So it's just one step along the way in her cycle.
Yeah, it's a flow.
Yeah, it's a flow. So then as environmentalists, what should our approach be? It cannot be an approach that is avoiding death at any rate. Extinction should not happen. This should not happen. That should not happen. We need a different approach. And what is that approach going to be? And I'm finding more and more clues in Indian philosophy, and that's why now when I do my sadhana, which consists of study and chanting and meditation, I do it trying to understand what is my role as an environmentalist. Why is nature inspiring me to do these things? And how will I find my path? Because that doesn't work for me anymore.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Right? And now, of course, it's going to be another journey that rediscovering and redefining my path as an environmentalist. But I think the clues will come from inside. And I have to become quieter and calmer so that I can listen to those clues.
Receive it. Yeah.
And they will not fit into these standard, mainstream paradigms that the environmental world has created. It will involve letting go. It will involve being detached. And when I think about our children and what do they really need? I mean, we had, when we were growing up, the idea of a pandemic and a lockdown never ever occurred to us even.
Yeah.
And now these people are saying that every so often there's going to be a pandemic. Yes. Imagine what the children are looking forward to. I'm not a parent, but I really shudder. And I come back and think, as an educator, what should I be giving them so that they're able to face this time, And if we are trying to create resilience, where is that resilience going to come from? They are going to face more death than we have ever seen. We're already seeing it. Right?
Yes.
How will you explain it to them if you don't even want to talk about death and dying? It doesn't come into your education anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think this episode, this choice that my mother made, it really made me go deeper and understand nature. Because as I realized death is her best kept secret. And it's a secret that I now want to unfold and unravel and understand, because it will change the way I relate, And I'm seeing now that my relationship with animals, my relationship even with people is changing qualitatively, because I have experienced this, and I'm coming to a very different understanding within myself. My work is changing, my relationships are changing, my understanding is changing.
Amazing.
That's what's happening.
Mortality, yeah.
Yes.
Just an interesting fact. I think your mother truly was a real scientist and a realized being, exactly like Socrates. And Socrates was poisoned, and he was losing sensation from his toes all the way up. And he invited his students to sit around him, and he said, "This is my most prolific work, because this no one else has experienced." Until the time his tongue went numb, he dictated exactly what was happening in his body without a single piece of medication going through him. So he was conscious till his last breath. Even after his tongue lost senses and it went, his eyes were speaking. And then finally he sort of released. He left. So I think there's some greatness, man. I think you have to live that life to come to a point of such courage and such clarity, right? I applaud.
Really, my mother was something else. And so I feel also role models are so important.
Yeah.
Because I had the gift of witnessing that, right? And she was a role model to me. Where do people have role models?
है ही नहीं यार.
है ना?
बिल्कुल.
So we need to find those people and really cherish them.
Or become those people.
Cherish them, and become those people, exactly.
Yeah, we have to lead with grace. Yeah. I think also coming back to the point of your story, I think the only thing we can do really is live with grace. That's the only thing that we can control. Live with grace in the present. We can't control the past. We have no handle on the future. We can only live with grace. So this moment, if we can cherish fully, I think that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Kal kisne dekha?
Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Okay. Where do we go from here?
So
what next? What gets you up in the morning now? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about?
So about 5 years ago, we started this campaign called Punaravartan. Maybe
Let's talk about it.
I'd like to share about that.
Yeah,
So another thing that I'm very passionate about is how our belief systems, so whether it's religious belief or spiritual, whatever you call it, how do your belief systems affect your behavior and your choices? And so your ecological choices also. So since I'm a practicing Hindu, so I started looking at that. So in festivals, and particularly in the Ganesh festival, there are issues, there are ecological impacts in the festival.
Absolutely.
That we were trying to address. So I started this work in 2007. And again, being a designer and an architect by training, the understanding of materials and what impact does each material have on the ecosystem is something that I'm very curious about. And how can design, so whether it's materials design or product design, and you're an industrial designer too. So, I feel design is a very powerful thing. Yeah. If it is done with someone who has a larger understanding of the overall connections.
Yes.
It's not just in a very siloed way that, I'm designing a mug, but where's this mug going to go? And, who has made the mug, who's using
materials,
the mug.
End of life,
the whole thing,
yeah.
The whole thing,
yeah,
right?
The whole thing.
So in the case of the Ganesh festival, it was POP versus clay or POP versus other materials, chemical paints versus natural paints. This is the dialogue and the debate that has been going on. Yeah. But the deeper thing is your belief system, right? So the main thing that impacts nature in this ritual is the ritual of Visarjan. और जब हम लोगों को पूछ रहे थे कि आप विसर्जन क्यों करते हो, we found that mostly people don't know. They don't have an answer. क्या विसर्जन? Do you bring Ganpati at home? Mrinmai does.
Mrinmai does.
Right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes we are doing these rituals because it's been done,
The
so,
community
and
does
we are
it.
not asking questions. And we can ask questions in a very respectful way. ऐसा
Yeah.
नहीं है, really to understand ना कि क्या
Yeah.
है, कि मैं
Yeah.
क्या कर रही हूँ.
Yeah.
तो हमने देखा कि लोगों को पता ही नहीं था कि विसर्जन क्यों होता है. And the issue that was happening was that the visarjan was happening in natural water bodies with, say, chemical substances that were non-biodegradable and toxic and whatever. So then the first question was, okay, then what other materials will you use?
Mhm.
Then you start, looking at alternatives like clay and paper and cow dung and cocoa peat. And then you realize every material has some problem with it,
Mm.
because it's not just the material in itself, but also how is the material
Volume.
being used
Mm.
and how is it being disposed.
Mm.
So whenever you do material studies or product design, you have to look at the entire life cycle. Now, in this case, it is what you can call, it's a non-essential thing. It's not something that you need. It's you're doing it because out of the love of your heart
Faith,
and because of a certain belief system and a faith. So, whereas in the holy colors, there was no real sentiment in that sense. It was more about health and protecting the health of the child and the adults and the skin and all that. In this case, it was a very different issue.
Mm.
It was about what do they believe about this, you know. So we took our time to try and understand what is the what do the religious leaders say, what is the spiritual significance of this, and then present the impact on nature from that perspective, right?
Okay.
And with a lot of respect, honoring the tradition.
Of
It was
course.
not about pointing fingers and creating guilt in anybody.
Of course.
I came to realize that the whole Ganesh festival is about circularity.
Yeah.
Okay. When you say Ganpati Bappa Moria, पुढच्या वर्षी लवकर या.
Correct.
म्हणजे काय? मी तुम्हाला
You're going to let go.
I'm going to let you go, but make sure you come back to me again. That is a cycle, right? And in this, even psychologically, when you see your murti, so for 10 days you are worshipping this murti with all your love. You've done so many beautiful things around it. Your community has gathered, and then it's time to let it go, right? And so then you see it's the murti is supposed to dissolve, and that ritual, that visarjan ka jo hum karte hain, it's because you have to watch something that you love dissolving in front of your eyes.
Yes, that's the symbol.
Asthi visarjan bhi hoti hai.
Correct.
Right? So when my mother died, she was not at all ritualistic. And I said, no, you allow me to do this because it's for me that I'm doing.
Mm.
I have to let you go, right? So Asthi Visarjan hoti hai, and you have to see that this is now, it's given back to nature. So you recognize, my God, what a powerful thing. And in the Ganpati Visarjan, it's not just an individual. The whole of society is saying that hamare community mein we celebrate letting go.
Mm.
When you look at the word Visarjan, it comes from the Sanskrit root, which is Sruja.
Okay.
And Sruja is also the root of the word Srujan. Right? So Srujan is taking birth, giving birth, creating something, right? Coming to life. And Visarjan, so Visarjan, Srujan, Srujan, they're all talking about the same thing. So Visarjan, see, Sanskrit is an amazing language because in this particular word, in English, they're opposite. In English, you will say letting go and giving birth. In English, you will say death and life. But Visarjan is both of those things in one word. Because it understands that to be able to give life, I have to let go. If the mother says, no, I'm going to hold the child in my body forever, she will never give birth. Right? So Visarjan is a ritual that reminds you that for new life to take shape, something has to be let go.
Yes.
And this whole society is doing it. So I have absolutely no problem with the ritual. I have great respect for the ritual. But if you do it with the wrong substances and at the scale at which you're doing it now, it is having an impact on other forms of life, which was never the idea in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? So we started to speak about this, and we started to tell people कि विसर्जन हम इसलिए करते हैं, and this is the deeper significance,
Mm-hmm.
And we also started to give them a better option.
Mm-hmm.
कि आप इस तरह कीजिए. So it respects the tradition, it respects the belief and the sentiment, and it respects nature also. So you start creating win-win solutions for everyone. And in 2020, when the Central Pollution Control Board finally said that we are going to ban the use of chemicals, we realized that the easiest material for people to use was clay.
Correct.
Now, clay is a non-renewable resource. It is mined from somewhere. वो गुजरात से निकाल के यहाँ महाराष्ट्र में आता है. So it has its own ecological
Life cycle
impact,
उसकी
right?
है.
So we thought, okay, is it not possible to reuse this material? So during COVID, we had a little bit with us. We went to the मूर्तिकार्स and said, आप ये reuse करके मूर्ति बना सकते हैं क्या? And they said, मैम ये तो हम करते ही हैं because हमारे यहाँ इतना damage होता है तो वो हम सब फेंकते नहीं हैं. We put it back. So we thought, okay, then this is very easy to do. So they said कि हम कर सकते हैं, but who is going to do the collection? And who's going to convince people that you should give it back? So that's what Punaravartan is about, where now, this is be the 6th year of Punaravartan in Pune, where we were able to bring together a whole diverse range of stakeholders, many organizations, the Murtikars, the Municipal Corporation, the Ganesh Mandals, the Manache Ganpati, everybody. We were able to convince everyone that ये करने लायक है और ये आसान है. Let's all do this together. And it has grown and grown and grown because it really comes out of a space of reverence for everything. It's not pointing fingers. It's not dividing people into us and them, that you're the problem and I'm the solution. ऐसा नहीं है. So it got received really well. And last year, we collected 57,000 kgs of clay, which was returned. And this was in Pune city, Pimpri Chinchwad and Thane. And now we've just signed an agreement with the state government of Maharashtra to replicate this across Maharashtra.
Wow.
Yeah. So we will offer handholding and training for whoever wants to do it. So this has been one of the largest campaigns that I've worked on. And my understanding has really changed, about the way we are approaching things. So I do feel that solutions are available and solutions are possible, but they have to come from a space of reverence and love.
And honesty.
Not guilting people and, creating fear. Like even now, I mean, if you see the kind of anxiety that young people are developing around environmental futures, is awful. It's awful. It's not going to inspire them to do something about it, So this is not, the way we need to approach nature. Nature's, this fascinating, mysterious, vast, intelligent field of energy. And we are just so lucky to be able to experience her, to learn from her. This is how children need to be taught, and that connect that they already have, we need to simply nurture that. So that's kind of the effort. And that's what we're trying to do in Vasudha also. Vasudha is the work we're doing with the children.
Before we go to Vasudha, what does Punaravartan mean?
So Punar, again, Punar, Avartan. So Avartan is giving form. And this word we picked up from a shloka in the Bhagavad Gita.
I see.
Where it is being pointed out that, in nature, everything
reforms.
Yeah, itself. So a reminder of the circularity. Yeah. Punaravartan.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Manisha, what is Vasudha?
So Vasudha is a Sanskrit word, which means the earth. And in the village that we've been working for the last 7 to 8 years, it's a village called Avalwadi.
Okay.
Not too far from Pune. There was a young girl who was working with us who comes from that village. And she is the one that, insisted that I should go there and, do something for her, her colleagues and the other women there. So for the last 8 years, we have been doing income generation work through the enterprises for them. And last year, we realized that it's time we start working with the children also, because we recognized that there was a need. So we went to the Zilla Parishad school and we asked them, ki aapko kis tarah ki madad chahiye? And they didn't have a library. They needed help with spoken English. So that kind of gave us a foot in the door.
Yeah.
I started working with these children, realizing that they're actually very, very bright. And so we have kids who, Zilla Parishad schooling is free of charge. So
Right.
it's the lowest economic strata that sends their children to that school. Often both the parents are working, so they don't have time to look after the children at home. So that's how also the child ends up going to school. So that's the level of children that are coming to us. So initially we started just, again, as I was saying, what is the need? How can I help? That's how we started Vasudha. But as we spend more and more time with the children, I realized that what I really wanted to do was to give them the love that I have for nature. I wanted to share that with them, right? All my favorite places, all the organic farms that I go to, all the things that I love. I just said, oh, I want to bring you there, and I want you to experience this. And so this started to evolve. And it became more and more an integrated learning program and a nature education space.
I see.
Where we're offering experiential learning, to these children, and hands-on, just a lot of hands-on, and just getting them to spend time in nature, because these are coming from families where the parents don't have the bandwidth or the resources, and the Zilla Parishad school, as we said, the schooling system just doesn't allow for these kinds of things. So, and again, to do this, I pulled in all my friends. So Jeevit Nadi took them to the riverside. Then, Nima and Vivek said, bring them to our farm. Ashwin Paranjpe said, bring them to our forest farm. So that's what we've been doing. So all my friends in Pune who have been working on
We'll be happy to host them on our farm.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is how, and as I spend time with them, I'm also understanding more about education. I just started reading a book by Swami Vivekananda on education, where he says very simply that education is just the unfolding of the perfection that already exists within the child.
It's like an onion.
Yeah, you just have to offer an environment within which that will blossom and nurture.
Correct. Correct.
Even when I think about, how does a mother cat teach her kittens, a lot of it happens just through osmosis, just by being together. It's not so much about, spelling everything out, or instructions, and again, this is how I learned from my own guru. So can we create a space where we just bring them to nature and the learning happens?
Absolutely.
Right? So we didn't want to get into any kind of conventional impact assessment or, examination or any of that, because they have enough of that pressure in schools, to really give them a space where they can blossom, like these seedlings where they know that with us, and through exposure and bringing them in nature and spending time with nature, empathy for animals, these are the kinds of things that we're doing. Also, the inner environment. So how will you nurture the inner environment? So every session, we started teaching them how to meditate from day one. So they meditate. And when you sit with them to meditate, you can really sense how still the child has become.
Oh, really?
Right? So this becomes a crucial part of their education. Last weekend, we took them to Kaivalya Dham, which is a yoga institute. So inner environment, including physical well-being and mental well-being, and understanding nature from within.
That's the external environment, coming from an internal perspective.
Right. So that even when, we had a very beautiful session, which we did with some horses. So the Yeravda Stud Farm, which is owned by the Vadyas, they were kind enough to allow us to bring the children. And one of our friends conducted a session where the child interacts with the horse, and the child is this much and the horse is huge, right?
Yeah.
And so the fear, so if fear comes up, so then walking through that fear, understanding how to communicate with an animal without using words, how to be in that energy and not allow the fear to hijack you. This is how empathy is built. Just कहने से कि डरो मत वो डर चला नहीं जाता ना.
Correct.
So they need that loving, safe energy around them to say, look, it's okay, just be, And it was absolutely amazing to watch, So it's just been such a beautiful journey for me, and where my own prejudices and my own conditioning are being, shown that, okay, you yourself are carrying so much fear, and you're trying to tell these children not to be afraid, So 1.5 years we finished in Avalwadi. One of the kids moved to Wagholi. So his mother kept calling, saying, "Tum ithe padhniya, ithe padhniya." And we went there and we realized that there is a huge garbage dump in Wagholi. And there is a kind of a residential colony right at the edge of that dump. So this is even lower than what we were working with in Avalwadi. This is migrant labor who have absolutely no money. So the only accommodation they can afford is right, like, step out and there's the garbage dump.
The scraps, yeah.
And so this was like another level. So we've not been able to, really get a foothold, because as soon as they have a little bit of money, they move out of there, which is good for them. But then how do you work with it? So the children keep coming and going. And right next door is the Zilla Parishad school. So we are still finding our way, with all of this. But it's very interesting to work with villages right on the edge of the city, because they're a completely different demographic. They're not like the rural kids.
And they're not full city.
And they are not. So there's an aspiration to become urban, but there is still a connect with the land, right? So in Avalwadi, many of their parents are still working the land, because there are patches of farms still remaining.
Yeah.
It's going fast, but there is. So as we started our classes, then all the Ajis will sit around us. And some of the Ajis still want to go and do the farming. So we said, will you take us also? We'll also come and do farming with you. So these are the kinds of experiences that we are curating for these children. We've taken them to the Vinoba Bhave Ashram, where they've done Bhat Lavani, and we go back again there for turmeric harvesting. So bringing in all these elements of environmental education, but in a very hands-on way, and also in a rootedness in their own culture and in Indian culture. So that's what Vasudha is. Yeah.
Creating a safe space for this learning.
Yes.
In short.
Yes.
And I have found that very difficult to do, honestly. So we moved out of the city, and in our village, it's very difficult to reach into a child, like they are very defined by the culture around them, and getting them to be still, go within. I mean, this is just a dream for me. I don't think I'll be able to do it. So I'm very curious to understand how it's being done. And the farm is obviously always open. So if you can get the kids there,
we'd love to bring them.
We do all of those things that you mentioned. So there are veggie orchards. There is rice, there is everything. So we can do all these activities.
Yes.
But I'm very curious to see how this is unfolding.
Yes. I think we were lucky also because in Avalwadi, we already had a presence. So we had worked with the mothers for so long. So there was a level of trust that was already there.
There you go.
And plus we in Avalwadi have a space. So now we've discovered anytime they see the space open, they just come, And so now we're building a library, a toy library, puppets and jigsaws and things that they can do so that they stay away from the screens, from the phones and the televisions. And so it's a learning curve for us also.
Outstanding work.
Yeah.
Outstanding work. So important, because I think you're flipping the aspiration.
Exactly.
Right? At a very young age.
Exactly.
So if you solve it there, and the kid never feels like leaving his roots,
right,
and going into the city, feeling alien, then doing all kinds of these, all the social issues that have happened because there's a fracture, rupture back home.
Exactly.
Right?
So Gandhi ji, I believe, said that गांव का पानी गांव में, गांव का पैसा गांव में, और गांव का युवान गांव में रहना चाहिए.
Very important.
Right. So, and we are products of the urban environment, and we've seen how deeply fractured it can be. Right.
Yeah.
So I think for us also it's an honor to be able to go back, and someone welcomes us into their space and allows us to be there.
It's a privilege.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a privilege. Well, this is
a lot.
This is wonderful.
Yeah.
And we were just discussing a while back about how our forefathers. I'm also a Hindu, and a hint of this. I mean, pure religion, right? Pure dharma is same no matter what the wrapper around it is. It's just a wrapper. But the fundamental values, the first principles, are always the same. And I think it is very important for us to acknowledge, to study, and to understand what was laid down. Because there was clearly a systematic effort to dismantle it,
Exactly.
so that we could then follow a system that was completely alien to us. And I think that's why we are all floating around like we don't know what the hell is going on, right? But we come from a culture and a society that was ridiculously diverse. It was full of art and culture and dance and song. It had so many layers and it was perfectly functioning, right? And there was very little to no money involved in it. So it was all happening on the fundamental transaction of value and how value should be distributed in a collective system. So I think it's all laid out, and I think you're trying to do some kind of work in this space.
Yeah.
So how can we do something? Like, what can we do?
So again, I think we need to revisit the environmental education that we are offering, right? So even courses like the Ecological Society or other master's level courses, or even how we teach about nature, in schools, starting from there also. So I've become very curious, and I want to really study more, and if possible, evolve a course on ecology, but from the Indian knowledge systems perspective, and I don't speak, unfortunately, I was not taught Sanskrit in school, biggest setback. But now discovering Sanskrit and the depth of Sanskrit, the understanding from which this language came.
Yeah.
And if you even start with one word at a time, like you were saying, Prakriti or Nisarga, right? And then you try to compare the Western paradigm with this. I mean, just even that exercise, right?
Yeah.
Even if you just take one word at a time, right?
Doesn't matter.
Forget studying the whole Upanishads or the Vedas or whatever. But if you even take one word and go further and further and further into the root of that word, the entire philosophy becomes easier to understand.
Yeah.
So ecology, as per Indian knowledge systems, this is, I think, a course that is just waiting to be designed and offered.
Absolutely.
And I think
there are so many experts already knee deep in this field.
Yes. So someone should bring them together. Exactly. One of the things that my mother often said was that, and which, Sri Aurobindo has written a piece called The Genius of India. So it was not just that they were functional, that society was genius, and we're so lucky to have been born, in such a culture. And we really need to come back and recognize the treasures that we have lost and that we need to regain. One of those aspects that my mother spoke about to me was complexity. She used to say, my mother herself studied abroad. Both my parents studied abroad. But at that time, they said, nahi, hum wapas jayenge. So when everybody was leaving, they came back, right? This was in the 60s. And she said that one of the things that the Western culture finds very hard is complexity and ambiguity.
Yeah.
They don't
like
because it's such a mind-driven perspective.
Yeah.
Right? So
intellect-driven rather.
Intellect-driven. So if the intellect is not driving you, then what is driving you? If you're not using your mind alone, yes, you use your mind, but you're not just using your mind as a tool to know nature, to understand nature, then where is that understanding coming from? What is that understanding about, And so she said that this complexity that you see in nature, like if you look at fractals, even if you look at art, or even if you look at science and what they are discovering about nature, there's this absolutely incredible complexity in it, which the mind cannot analyze and break down and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You can't dissect it.
Yeah, you can't dissect it. You can't break it into fragments.
Experience it.
You have to step back. Yeah. Your mind has to calm down, and then it gets revealed to you.
Yeah.
This is how ancient Indian knowledge systems work.
Absolutely.
They worked on revelation, not on analysis and this kind of.
So the Western and the scientific method is measurement. And so they make CERN type reactors that span through 3 countries, and they figure out something that's written so simply in the Vedas in one shloka, and it's over, right? But they didn't spend billions of dollars. It took one man sitting quietly somewhere, really introspecting the layers of nature, right? So it's just a different path, but I think it's the same truth at the end of it. Science is also learning from nature.
Getting
it's
there
trying to
slowly.
figure out nature.
Yeah, getting there. But you know, there was a film made on Ramanujam. Maybe you've seen it.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So where does that come from?
Yeah, where does that, even the mathematics, right?
Yeah, where does it come
Yeah.
from? Right.
Yeah.
So, and can you and I also have access to it?
Theoretically, yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
then if we can, look, I'm already 55. Okay. How much more time do I have in this body? What do I want to do with the rest of my time? Right. If that was possible, and if that is possible, then shouldn't I be,
That's the only pursuit worth pursuing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why.
With you, I have gone to some fundamental questions of life now. So let me ask the biggest question that I've never asked. What do you think is the purpose of life?
I think it's about discovery for me. It's about learning. It's about discovering myself. It's about discovering who I am. And I might just come to this final recognition that this nature that I'm trying to protect out there is actually me.
It's all there.
It's here, And it's a learning curve, and it's an unlearning curve, right? It's unlearning everything that we got fed, through these conditionings. And then once you figured it, like I often ask myself that why did Jnaneshwar Maharaj give up his body at the age of 22? And when I think about him, I feel like he thought, ho gaya, bas ho gaya.
Correct.
Why?
I've done my work.
Like, how much will I do of the same thing over and over again?
Yeah. I've done my bit.
I'm content. And what is beyond this body is now exciting me, is now calling me,
That's the quest.
And it's not that we just all give up our bodies tomorrow, but the point being that the body is not everything. It's just a vehicle, and it's just a tool, and that. So I'd like to use my years now in this process of discovery. And for me, that's purpose enough. That's purpose enough, right? I don't need any massive, larger thing. It's about who am I? Why did I come here? And am I doing what I came here to do? And that's it. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Because for those who are not from the Hindu faith, we measure this journey in lifetimes, not in the kal of a body or one lifetime.
Exactly.
So it takes many, many, many lifetimes for you to do that sadhana and finally come to a place of union, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it's fun to discuss this.
Yes, and if you think about nature, I think all the environmentalists I've met, they have such love for nature, and whether it's for birds or for animals or for trees, there's such a deep sense of connection and love, right? And when even, I've got so tired of living in the city, I started saying, I'm going to go somewhere, I keep saying that. And then I came back and I realized there's nowhere to go. I can sit at home, look at the sky, and have the very same experience, But I'm not here. I'm always wanting to run away, So I think that that deep sense of love and connection that Jnaneshwar Maharaj had, or that some of the worlds, like Jane Goodall, right? I feel like she's
there. Yeah.
It's so beautiful to watch, right? Imagine living your life like that, right? That's what really inspires me, and the love and that she just radiates out. It's just so amazing. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, I'm going to ask some lighter questions.
Enough? Yeah.
I'm going to ask some lighter questions.
Yeah.
We both love reading books. And I think a book is a portal into a new world of knowledge or experience, which is just magical, right? And it is the key for someone to just unlock your reality and push you into something which is just mysterious. That's what books do to me. What is your favorite book? What is next to your bedside table right now? What is the book that you've reread this is a very interesting question for me because there are very few books that I've gone back to again and again and again. And every time I go in, it's just something completely different that's opening up. And if you gift books, then what is the most gifted book?
Yeah. I love reading. And I grew up in a culture that where books were just like, absolute
Oxygen.
top of the thing. So currently, I have read and gifted a book called Die Wise by an author called Stephen Jenkinson, and who is absolutely, I mean, he's a poet. Actually, it's the book is prose, but the prose is as good as poetry. Highly articulate man. This is a man who has spent nearly 30 years in what he calls the death trade. He set up hospice for children, so dying children.
My God.
And he worked with that for 20 years. So there was a documentary film made on him. It's called The Grief Walker. So this was because I am now studying death and dying in such depth. So I came across this book called Die Wise. I read it like at a stretch, 5 days. I just couldn't stop reading. And then I reached out to him and I had a conversation with him. Phenomenal book. So I've been gifting that to everybody.
Okay.
By my bedside is also right now the Vishnu Sahasranamam, which I read. I chant, but I read also every evening. For the past 4-5 months, I've been doing that. So currently, these are the two. The book that really got me going on the environmental path was the one that I received from my aunt, who was a scientist. It's called The Secret Life of Plants. Maybe
correct.
you've,
Yeah.
So that's a book I have read and read and read again and again. So that's, these are the three that come to mind.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. The next question is, what was your last purchase that changed your life in some meaningful way? What did you consume? I mean, other than food or whatever, but what was your last buy that you think really was a game changer or a life changer?
So I'm not a big shopper.
Okay, fair enough.
So I buy things only when the previous thing has reached such a point where I have to let it go. So that's an interesting question. I can't think of an answer.
Fair enough.
It's usually I buy things only when I really, really need them. Otherwise, I tend not to buy. I just stay away because, like, again, when your mother dies, there are things. So we spend that whole year giving away all her things so that she could consciously give them away rather than me having to decide whom to give them to, So I've become very wary of things because I feel like they just tie me down. So I have very few things that I can really say that, again, it's the books. It's the books that keep me bound, but everything else can just come.
So I guess the book has been the last.
I guess that's, the book that I purchased.
It's been a life changer or a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
That's the book. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a question I ask all my guests, right? I'm going to give you a billboard that the whole world is going to have access to. They're going to see this. This is your message to the world. You can take some time to think about it. What would you write on it? If you could say something to the world, what would it read?
I think I'd leave it blank. I think silence is so underrated. Silence connects, actually. If I sit with you and I don't say anything, I'm just sitting with you. That connection is just so much more powerful.
Yeah.
Rather than I can say all these things for the next 2 hours. But it's that first thing when you walked through the door, you looked at me and there was a connection. That's all really, I am begun to suspect too many words. So I would just leave it blank and I'd allow them to write.
Amazing. Best answer yet.
Even with the children,
I'd probably do the same. Yeah. I have nothing to say. You have to create whatever you want to see.
Yeah. And that you have a field, that you offer a field in which things can be created. You know?
Thank you so much. This conversation has been top.
It was
Thank
fun.
you for your time. It was really fun.
It was fun, yeah.
I think this is going to be the beginning of a nice friendship.
Yes, I hope so. And for all of you also. आप लोग घर आइए, हमारे साथ गांव में आइए, है ना? बच्चों को मिलिए.
This is family. Yeah. This is
Yes.
family. This is not a team. This is family. So, yeah, we work like that. We were thinking about this for 4 years, and then we met for a coffee in Fat Labrador Cafe in Bavdan.
They came with the agenda.
And they said, "Ki these guys have just been talking about it. Let's just push them to do it." And then we just did it.
So great.
And it's rolling now. So we can have this conversation and we can have this wonderful setup because Jaydev, who's a very dear friend, has a company called Nature Care Fertilizers,
Mhm.
was started by his father. And he believed that as per Hindu ideology, one cow and her dung is enough for 1 acre's nutrition throughout the year and one family's food and milk throughout the year if the communication is of love. And based on that foundation, he started Nature Care Fertilizers. He worked at NCL, Baba Barve, his father.
Okay.
He quit NCL, went back to Vita, which is near Sangli, and he created this beautiful formulation of Shenkhat and 11 other different additives
Wow.
that are just magic to the soil. And it's like an auxiliary to restore soil, which we are losing so rapidly. So I used, when I told you that after 15 days of buying our farm, everything had gone to the dump. I used his formula to restore my soil. And we've been friends ever since. It's the beauty of such this circle of ours.
Yeah.
Once you touch, that's it. Then you're friends for life. And he's been a cheerleader, and Nature Care sponsors this podcast. So thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you
yeah.
for the support. This lets me do what we do. So thank you, Nature Care Fertilizers. If you like that video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell icon so that you never miss the next episode of The Root Cause.